our conversations here are very casual, and it just so happens that we have the opportunity to talk about the status of the electrification of county fleet. And we have Benson, we have Riley, Mitch. We can also talk about the hydrogen buses, and that'll be perhaps the gist of today's call. But we can bring in additional topics as well. And Riley, I thought maybe we can also talk about the conference that you were a part of, which was should have been very interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Don't do that. He's gonna get a big head. Don't do that.
Tell him what time you had to get up in the morning to go to the.
Yeah, the panel started at 5 in the morning.
So. Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. So, how do we want to start? Should we talk about the hydrogen buses? Because one thing before we start, National Drive Electric Week is the last week of this month. So it's September 25th through October 3rd. And so it's about the electrification of transportation, which includes fuel cell electric vehicles, right? Like the hydrogen buses we're talking about. Mayor Roth had signed a proclamation that that last week of the month is Drive Electric Week for the county of Hawaii. And the other counties have done the same thing. And we also got the same proclamation from Governor Ige's office. So it's, I think that there's an opportunity for us to put a spotlight on what we're doing with the electrification of transportation. So it's a very timely conversation here. And maybe out of this, I can, take some calls to action to work with some of you to publicize some of the work we're doing. So anyway, that's a backdrop that I'd like to share. I think it's very relevant, and maybe we can just go around the room and talk about how things are going. Ioni is joining us.
Sorry, Noel, did you say you wanted me to start off on the bus?
Oh, you can. Yeah, feel free.
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay. So what happened is, what's happening is we're commissioning that first bus, the 29-passenger bus. We were having difficulty, so US Hybrid sent in their top guy. He arrived on Monday. They yanked the fuel cell out of the bus and set it up on a operating table. I'll characterize it as that. And they went through it. They found several issues. His name is Dan. He brought a suitcase full of new equipment to upgrade it to the most current version of their fuel cell and to improve the performance. I went up there yesterday and I went up there again today, and I'm happy to report that the fuel cell is now operating at spec. One small problem is with the blower that had a bad motor, so that's being shipped from California. Should arrive sometime this week coming, and our guys will install that. So basically, it's looking pretty good right now. Should be able to have, depends on when transportation is an issue, as you know, with COVID and all that. I hate to blame everything on COVID, but it's true. So by the end of next week, it should be installed back in the bus, and subject to the blower arriving, it should be operational. Certainly by the following week, it will be. So yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, and it's in fact performing better than the spec. And so I'm pretty happy with where we are. I'm pretty happy with the support we've been getting from US Hybrid. They've been working basically on the weekends and the week, so it's not like they're slacking off. And even, the guy had to fly in all the way from Connecticut to service the stack itself. So I think that's my report. The station's ready to go. In all respects. So that's the status, without trying to, waste everybody's time with any more blah blah blah.
Hey, Mitch. So the bus in question is still in Oahu, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's at the U.S.
Yeah.
It's the U.S. hybrid facility up in Kinea Village. Yeah.
Okay. And that would be for the 29 passenger?
29 passenger bus. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that
Any
update.
questions from anybody else?
Well, I do have one. So we have the 29 passenger and we have the 2 smaller buses. So what's the status of the 2 smaller buses?
We're changing out the batteries and we're changing out the fuel cells. So the battery modules had arrived in California 2 or 3 weeks ago now. They're assembling them into the battery packs. The battery packs will be shipped here to Hawaii and then installed in the bus. The fuel cells, I believe, are almost finished production, and they're outfitting them with the balance of plant, and then they'll be shipped over and installed. Right now, one bus is sitting up at the Kinea Village facility, and the second one is still parked at Hickam. So they have, in addition to all this, they'll have to have their wraps stripped, and they have to be painted in the county colors and tarred up. So, but everything on the bus, apart from that, the propulsion system, the 29 passenger bus has been checked out. The wheelchair lift, the air conditioning, all the other subsystems are all operational.
What's your estimate of when it's going to be running?
Well, subject to the arrival of the new blower, which had a bad motor and it came from China, so they've got a different motor now, which will improve its reliability. The bus itself should be ready by the end of next week to start running on the road on Oahu. But that's subject to the arrival of the blower, which is because of the long weekend. It can't be shipped till Tuesday. So,
what's the estimate for providing service on the island?
I don't have an estimate on that. I won't give one because I've never been right yet. It'll be whenever.
Well, in 2 months, we're going to have our TEDx Big Island event, which is addressing climate change, and that would be a wonderful opportunity to somehow.
Okay. Yeah, we'll certainly be shooting for that. I mean, I feel we can make that, but we'll certainly give me a date. What is the actual date of TEDx?
November 13th.
Oh, yeah. Well, we should have it by then.
Hey, Mitch,
Yeah, lots of.
This session is being recorded for quality assurance purposes.
What was that?
They said this session is being recorded for quality assurance purposes.
Oh, okay.
accountability, right? Hey, Mitch, I wanted to know is that bus going to run as part of some type of a service, or when the bus gets running, what's it going to be doing?
Well, that's entirely up to the Mass Transit Agency, the MTA, because it's their bus. So I think initially, I mean, I'm just thinking a lot. I mean, it's up to John Ando and it's up to the county of how they want to operate it or introduce it. My recommendation would be to do some ride and drives around the various communities to, A, we can test it out, and B, show it off to the general public, and then whatever the county wants to do with it, as far as revenue service or whatever, that's up to them. What we're doing, what HEI is doing, is supplying the hydrogen. At the moment, we're in pretty good shape on the hydrogen supply. So, and I understand they'll be parking at our facility at Nelha. We're happy to do that. We have it's pretty well protected there. And we can hose it down at night. Oh, I can't hear you.
It would be incredible to have it be like the show and tell component of it, right? Because it can be, it could have vinyl that says, zero emission transportation, whatever, just to call attention to the fact that this is not diesel or gas, and then have that apply. It could even just be like up and down the coast, right? Like Kona to Waikoloa, just because that's where you have the fueling. And at some point, this would be in addition to what you were describing, which is do a show and tell around the community. At some point, once we have the fueling set up in Hilo, and the transport of the hydrogen to Hilo, then maybe you can also do demos with cross saddle, maybe up the coast and down. But I think it'll play a very important role in helping the public understand what zero emission, what electric vehicle transport is, and the benefits of. So hopefully that'll be part of the the plan. So I think you raise a good question here, which is we will have the fueling, we'll have the bus, but the actual execution will be up to MTA. So I guess the question is, what is the plan? Is there a plan already in place for that? And if not, what would be required to make it happen?
I think everybody's waiting for the bus to arrive, and then we can start looking at planning it. But like I say, the initial could be the ride and drives. But it's not my bus. I have no control over it. It's up to MTA and the county of how they want to exercise this and roll it out. It's not up to HNEI. I mean, obviously we're totally interested and we support it in every way, but I can't. It's up to the county. Like, what do they want to do?
Well, I would encourage.
I've given you what I think we should do, but and the other thing feature it has for you is that it has this power export unit on this first bus, meaning we can power all sorts of various electrical equipment. So if you're showing it off at TEDx, you can be powering lights or microphone, sound systems, or whatever with it. It's going to have plenty of power to do that. Or a margarita machine, maybe not. And getting back to your comment, Noel, on the signage on the bus is, we did talk about having the students, in the schools, a little competition to come up with some artwork for the bus. Maybe that's all too difficult at this stage, and we just put on a zero emission bus signage on it and let it catch up or whatever. I mean, Sustainable Energy Hawaii has volunteered to lead that charge. I don't know if that offer is still on the table. Some people have left, so maybe it's no longer viable.
I think that, and I don't know, Riley and Doug, if we have the right people on the call, but it does sound like there's an opportunity to meet with whoever's in MTA who will be driving this, and just finding out, what are the plans and how can we assist? Like if there's an opportunity to come up with artwork, for the vinyl, is that something that we can even do, right? Because the county may have some requirements around branding and around signage that it has to address to begin with. But does that make sense? It sounds like we might have to have a conversation with others in the county for this. What are your thoughts?
Riley's waiting for me, but I'm not going to say anything because he's had the conversation. So go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, we're waiting for, like what Mitch said, the bus to be on a timeline. But definitely want to, John's been part of, in other jurisdictions prior, been part of launching of zero emissions. So I'm not really worried or concerned about it, that we're going to do it right. If you Google his name and zero emissions, just do that and you'll see him pop up. in different cities, and John Ando quoted by media and other things like that. So I am not concerned about it.
So
You know
my
what's interesting?
my two cents is John has a lot of energy and interest in this kind of a project. So I'm totally certain that he's going to take all sorts of leadership on this thing and get it out there. So supporting what Riley had to say.
I was just going to comment that we do have, so Roberts Hawaii is flying at least one of those electric buses here, right? And I recall seeing it, but I don't recall the signage or what vinyl it had on it because I was behind it. But it sounds like something's already out there, and we would complement that, right? Essentially, just have some common branding so that when someone sees it, they'll say, "Oh, there's an electric bus. There's a zero emission bus."
FYI, we're in the middle of working on rebranding Heleon also in total. So actually, Yoni, there's a posting, right, that people can go on?
Yeah, it's on the Helion social media, so I can link it.
Right, so y'all can go on there. There's like 6 different versions and vote.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, if you can share the link.
Vote for number 6.
Actually, Doug, I think Issa, Emily, Yoni, and myself all had 6 in 1 and 2. Yeah. 2 and 6 was like neck and neck. Oh, we blew it for the others. Sorry. But vote for.
So what about if we're not on Facebook? Like those of us who refuse to be on Facebook, like.
And so send Riley a note saying I want number 6, and he'll make sure you get it.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, but since it's at some point soon, all of the buses are going to be zero emission anyway. We probably need to kind of take a look at whether or not that should already be part of the planning, the design. Just wishful thinking. Anyway, this is great. I like what I'm seeing here. I like the red. Maybe let me share my screen.
Red is the color of the Big Island, and the ohia is a flower.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is it.
Oh, cool.
And you've got a snow-capped Mauna Kea there. Is it just 2? Am I seeing just 2?
No, it should be
option 1, option 2. It's just toggling between option 2.
Right.
Oh, here's option 3.
Option 3.
And then option 4. Option 5. So you're saying that the preferred so far is option 6, and what was the other one?
2.
Option 6 and 2. So this is option 6. Okay. So I guess the question that was posed by Mitch is interesting, right? Because maybe the voting needs to be on the county website because not everybody's on social media, and a lot of people don't like Facebook. Although I'm on Facebook. So anyway.
We're trying to get the millennials to ride the bus.
So Riley, a question: when will the decision be made? And if it's made in time, can we have the 3 hydrogen buses like converted over here before they're shipped to the Big Island?
You just keep working on those buses, brother. No, I don't know.
We don't know when the decision will be made. You are at the cutting edge of this information coming out.
I just got an email pop up like late last night kind of thing going, here it is.
Okay.
So we have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
You know.
Shall we talk about the progress with just general electrification? So, Benson, we have the schedule, right, or the plan to convert light duty. Just curious about if there's anything that can be shared about that.
You had enough to drink, Benson?
Yeah, no, I'm continuing to go. I mean, I'm only halfway through the meeting here. Feeling like, yeah, it's good. I know you got something in that thermos of yours too, Doug. So but I won't rat you out.
It's Aloha
so-
Friday.
Yeah.
No work on Monday.
So while we're talking about hydrogen, I wanted to add that on sustainability partners side, that we've committed to the county to help support financially the infrastructure, the hydrogen infrastructure it's going to take to support these vehicles. And Riley didn't mention that he's also hoping to get hydrogen vehicles. But of course, going to need to have some hydrogen infrastructure to do that. So, in our meeting today, we talked about that. So, that's coming. On the EV side, we're starting to penetrate really into a lot of the state agencies. Today, we had a long meeting with the DLNR people. Of course, they're really interested in trucks, but they want to make the conversion because they've already figured out when they read the fine print in House Bill 552 that they can no longer order internal combustion engines after January of 2022. They've decided that, wow, that's going to be a pretty hard stop, so we better start paying some attention to the conversion of our electric fleet. So I say in the last month or so, every county, Hawaii County, of course, is at the forefront of it. Every county and about probably 8 or 9 different agencies within the state have already inquired about, how they can start their conversion with Sustainability Partners Program to help them. So we see that coming. I think, as a lot of you guys know, the game changer is going to be really probably the middle of next year when the F-150 show up, because I think at least in all of the county and state agencies that we've talked to, they all want to be in the front row of that distribution when the F-150s show up. But we're also getting inquiries about, and I want to thank you, Noel, for posting on your LinkedIn every possible electric conveyance that there is, because people are now requesting electric excavators, electric garbage trucks, electric bucket trucks, any type of electric vehicle that's out there beyond just the regular EV. So, that's pretty encouraging, and for us, whose contract is basically to promote the electrification of transportation. Then the other big thing that Noel, you already know about this, is that the state energy office is now going to hire a full-time person, and that person is basically going to be in charge of going through all the state departments to try to help with this conversion to emission-free or no emission type vehicles. So that'll be a great help. And then the last thing I want to report is I had a pretty long meeting last week with Mike McCartney at DBED. He's a college classmate of mine. So among other things, he told me, I really am a supporter of hydrogen, but I think if anybody's going to sort of bust the nut on hydrogen in our state, it's going to be Hawaii Island, because they have everything there, including the leadership. They've got financing from us to do it, and they've got a good resiliency program in terms of being able to sustain the infrastructure we're going to put in. So yeah, he was all behind that 100%. So anyway, that's a report from Benson, Medina, signing out.
Thanks, Benson. You know, I know that it's been in the news, and there even have been a number of articles posted about you know, the program, right? The transport as a service, and how the state is able to actually save money by moving into this model of buying service versus buying transportation. And despite that, we still get the inquiries, right? Like I would get people writing into me and asking, so why are state employees driving Teslas? You know, what the heck's going on with that? You know, so there's this there's still this lack of awareness around how, you know, it's not necessarily a brand thing; it's actually cost, right? And if sustainability partners or some third party is going to be providing service, they're going to want to have equipment that is going to be the most cost effective and reliable. So I think there's still that messaging, and we'll try to get that out through our channels and a website, et cetera. But it does sound like people are starting to notice, and they're starting to, you know, which is a good thing. And they're starting to ask questions, because then it highlights the, you know, the underlying benefits that are driving the decisions.
Yeah. Well, to your point, Noel, in our meeting today, which went an hour and a half with a wide spectrum of DLNR people, and you know, under that there's the Harbors Division, of course, there's the Forest and Wildlife, DOFA, and all of these guys. But for the majority of that meeting today, it was really like we were talking about something they had never heard of, and so we had to start from, okay, you know, here's an EV. I mean, a really rudimentary level, but by the end of it, I think they got the gist of it. Is that this is a program that they have access to? They can utilize it now. They can basically start converting their fleets, and a pretty easy process. But I see it across the board. I mean, even when we deliver the cars, I mean, it's almost comical because they're actually almost terrified of the car. They don't want to get in it. They're like, okay, how does this thing work? But once we drive them around the block a couple times, they sort of get the gist of it. Then we can't stop them from driving it. So what has happened, right, is they give us an estimated amount of mileage they're going to drive based on what they're driving today. So like a lot of the the DOT Highways Division, like they would say, oh, we drive this particular car, you know, 600 miles a month, right? So when we replace that car and put an EV in there, they actually double that mileage. They drive it more, and so yeah. So it's kind of an amazing thing, phenomena that we have to go in and sort of readjust it because they're going way over what they thought they were going to do. So it's just kind
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like John Noguchi from Mass Transit in Honolulu. When they got their buses, the bus drivers all want to drive the electric bus because as they pick up riders, the response and positive energy is so different. Such a difference for them as bus drivers, because usually everyone getting on the buses, they're kind of like not happy or whatever. And but being the electric bus driver, they get a lot of love when people get on the bus. So they got to rotate the drivers, and
Wow.
But because they all want the electric.
Well, that's great. That's great. It's great to hear that, and it might be interesting to see what the bus that's flying here, right, with Roberts Hawaii, to kind of get their feedback as well. You know, what's working, what's not working. Yeah. Any Riley, anything else from you that you want to share about transportation? Oh, what about the hydrogen, the conference? Any highlights that you want to share with us? You're on mute.
So I'll share my screen and run through the presentation. Keep in mind, I had to do this in 5 minutes and with no interruptions. So let's see if, so do you see my screen?
Yes.
So I'll have my notes. I'll just kind of highlight from my notes. So I said, this is Riley Saito, energy specialist serving the County of Hawaii as the energy specialist in the Research and Development Department. I will not be reading the content of the slides, just pointing out key highlights. For example, this is a picture of a hydrogen PEM electrolyzer that is in operation and capable of producing 66 kilograms per day. Hawaii County is an island within the state of Hawaii. It's not the state of Hawaii. It's 4,000 square miles, average elevation of 3,800 feet. The median household income about 58,000 per household, with the state average at 80. Well, nearly 50% of our island households are ALICE or poverty. There's 200,000 registered vehicles within the island, of which they travel to work on the right side. The analysis is that over 36% travel more than 50 miles one way to get to work. So you've got a lot of vehicles, a lot of traveling to get to work. This results in the actual transportation greenhouse gas emissions being approximately 58% of the greenhouse gas emissions. I believe Oahu's in the 30s, mid 30s, on the transportation sector. We're at 58%. Now there's enabling policies that are in place. HRS 3610, which actually was passed quite a while ago, 15 years ago, in which the state put in statute that Hawaii Island would transform to a hydrogen economy. That said, most recently, HRS 3642 was passed, in which the vehicle fleet performance contracts could be entered into by government agencies, resulting in third-party financing for the vehicle fleet, fueling, and charging infrastructure. And this is a strong push to address the transportation greenhouse gas situation we have on the island. Yeah, here. So here we have HNEI, Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, has installed, and we're operating the hydrogen station on the left. That is what we refer to as the chicken. Now the chicken feeds the eggs, or produces the eggs, which is the hydrogen bus, 29 passenger bus on the right. So this is the hydrogen discussion of chicken and egg. You know, we're able to stand up mitigated risk with risk mitigated a pilot program through HNEI, and mahalo to the US DOE for providing seed funding about 10 years ago. So the hydrogen transport trailer brings the two together, which is managed by the county, and the county is actually in control of the hen house. So we've got the chicken, the eggs, and we're controlling the hen house. So in the lower right-hand side, you can see where we have the production station on the west side of the island, the ability to transport, the flexibility to transport the hydrogen in a form that to a place where the actual point of use will occur. Why hydrogen works for the Big Island? It's hydrogen vehicles have range and fueling flexibility with an unlimited shelf life. The hydrogen can be produced and transported, stored to the point of need and use cheaper than fossil fuel. Our sources of hydrogen is from a variety, landfill, geothermal, solar, wind, and we're looking into inline hydro. And all of these options are at or below the cost of fossil fuel. The resulting transformation will result in a closed loop hydrogen economy. Advancing that, the new technology will transform our workforce, hopefully to higher paying jobs, to address the diversity, equity, and inclusion of our Alice and poverty households to advance their quality of life. Our next steps, identifying sources to support a large upfront transformation in concurrently dealing with vehicle fleet transformation, along with building out fueling and charging infrastructure over the next 5 years, from a diversified of on-island hydrogen production from waste, solar, wind, geothermal. And that our North Star is truly to import zero molecules or mobility energy for this island. The life of the land lives in righteousness. Mahalo.
This is great, Riley. I would like to add that if that we also have the opportunity. So we talk about the true energy independence, right? With the ability to produce the energy in the different forms that are required for us to address electricity, transportation, et cetera, right? There you can throw in agriculture, the inputs like fertilizers, et cetera. But then there's the other piece of it, which is, and SEH is very keen on this, is to establish to create excess so that you can actually export. You can actually export to the parts of the state, or maybe even in the international markets. There's quite a big there's a heavy appetite for hydrogen, but unfortunately, a lot of the hydrogen that's being produced right now is fossil fuel dependent, right? And it's awful. So our ability to get to the point where we're actually generating abundant green hydrogen to not only support our needs, but actually contribute to the export market is going to be it's just a terrific opportunity. I have a question. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Riley.
No, I got an inquiry interesting today that actually not today, right after the conference, where to take hydrogen and operate fuel cell generators that would supply the energy needed for enclosed hydroponic facilities. And there's a company on the mainland in California that actually has this model where he has the technology going from hydrogen fuel cell energy producing 5,000 heads of lettuce a day from a facility that has climate control, light control, and optimized conditions with aquaponics. So that is a really expansion. If we can, Noel, I mean, food security from clean energy.
Yeah, absolutely. We had an interesting, Think Big had an interesting webinar a few weeks back on vertical farming, and it was clear that there's heavy potential for this, right? I mean, it doesn't solve all of the food requirements because there's a limited application, but for produce and certain things that can be grown successfully in these vertical farms, it might allow for less water consumption, less pesticide inputs, etc. But then the big challenge is energy, right? Energy to power the lights, energy to keep the temperature ideal, and so on and so forth. So if we can address that energy issue, then we have a solution, right? That's sustainable. So it's cool. David, did you have a comment?
I actually wanted to ask Mitch and Riley if they were aware or through Rep Nakashima. I know U.S. Hybrid when Stan was at HCAT. attempting to get US Hybrid to look at relocating to the Big Island in regards to be able to do some of the things, Riley, you had at the end. But the opportunity, I think, for the Big Island in regards to the state is the transformation side, which you showed on one of those slides, Riley. Because of our geographic and demographics, we actually are the ideal opportunity for real life testing in regards to application. And so I'm wondering where that went, or if US Hybrid, in regards to that, because it seems to me that we are on the cusp with Benson's sharing of the newfound opportunity perhaps for hydrogen infrastructure funding for county vehicles, that we're going to need a support of our tech side to be able to maintain and or what have you in this area. Any word on that, Mitch? Is US Hybrid, I mean, if we make that commitment, are they still interested?
Absolutely, they're still interested. In fact, that slide that Riley showed had a lot of input from US Hybrid. So they're still very much interested. They are willing to even invest some of their own money into a production facility. They are ready to support workforce development. They already support AC Transit and Sunline Transit with their workforce development programs. And so the bottom and also the whole concept of assembling buses in Hawaii County rather than importing a finished bus for the mainland is all in keeping with US Hybrid's business plan, to the point where they've also identified a bus supplier who's willing to ship a bus as a glider, i.e. no existing powertrain in it, so that we can get an empty bus and then install the drivetrain without having to pull out a internal combustion engine drivetrain, which A is wasteful and B is labor intensive. So this would all bring the cost of that bus down to be very competitive. So that's yes is the answer.
We had
let me just finish one thing.
Right.
In fact, they already do that. Apparently, I was talking to their super tech who came out here today. They already do kits. So what they did is they converted a garbage truck several years ago, and I think it was for New York City, but anyway, a major city, and the company that produced the garbage truck said, well, can we install the system? And so they said, yeah. So the concept is they're going to be providing them with the drivetrain kits to install into the OEM's bus. So yes. So without going any further, it's a great big yes in capital letters.
So
I think it's. Sorry, go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, don't hold me to this, but when we were talking, a year ago, we were looking at this conversion. And there's a friend of county council, Mitch and I were, and they asked about it, and they're hoping it was like $25,000 I think. And we go, no, it's $450,000. Kind of ballpark to convert it, right? But see, so now that 450, including gutting the internal combustion engine, right, on a new bus, taking that out and putting in the drivetrain. So now the glider comes in, it's, and just using the battery guys, they say 60% of the cost of the battery bus is the batteries. So you have to figure the glider must be like 40%, right? So you take that, say $800,000, you take off 60%. So now you're at about a $300,000 cost or so, $350,000 for the glider. And then you put in the powertrain, say you're not gutting it. So instead of 450, let's say it's 300. So now you got a hydrogen bus for $650, like 650,000 versus $1 million. That's kind of the general idea and approach for this.
Benson, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on a point about alternative sources of electricity. We're actually looking right now at a project to extract methane gas out of the closed landfill that's in Hilo, and then also the one that's over in Kona, and we expect to be able to get enough gas to help in the production of hydrogen, and then also to be able to extract some gas out of the wastewater facility in East Hawaii now. So that's coming in terms of an alternative source of producing, a cleaner type of hydrogen. And then we're also looking at putting up microgrids in some of the areas in which we'll need en-route charging for the buses. And so these microgrids will actually help to produce power. And then a couple of weeks ago, Riley and I were up at Lalamilo at the windmill. And then, Riley had a complete production idea about how we were going to take the excess energy produced by those windmills and put it into the production of hydrogen. So what I do want to say actually is there's a lot of effort and energy going into producing, green hydrogen as opposed to taking that energy off the grid.
Yeah, and avoiding either just burning off the methane or worse, having it go into the atmosphere, right? So it's a win-win.
See, we're so good at bad behavior that the only way to go is up.
But the thing about what we're doing here is that we're kind of hard on ourselves because we know there's still a lot to do. But the reality is, like, if you're looking from the outside in, we're leading in many ways, right? Maybe not quite there yet, but all the efforts collectively that we're doing to decarbonize, to create a more sustainable economy, all these different things are coming together, and it's a very positive thing for us. It's worth calling attention to. And Harvey, with the TEDx event, we hopefully will be able to see some of that too.
Just to follow up, I'm curious, when we think about the development of the hydrogen economy, clearly geothermal could play a key role in this. Is sustainability partners involved in trying to figure out solutions to move the whole geothermal process forward?
Not yet, but I know Richard's going to talk a little bit about it here in a second. But I've already started having conversations with Mike Kalakini, and me and Mike and Richard sit on a board, but yeah, we're interested in trying to advance that as well. So, Richard, why don't I hand that over to you? You're working on this, deeper than I'm at.
Okay. Today we had a Zoom conference. Myself and Nicole Lautzi from the Groundwater Geothermal Resource Center, and Charlie Hall. Charlie Hall is the guy that the father of energy return on investment. So what I asked Charlie, because there's a bunch of different numbers that you can compare. You're supposed to be able to compare apples to apples, the different energy sources. So I told Charlie, this was maybe a year ago. I said, your evaluation of geothermal doesn't sound right to me, because it'll last for 500,000 years, and you don't have to pay for it for the heat. And yet the number is not as high as it should be. So the conversation today was about just exactly that. So we're coordinating to do that analysis. So we'll do it hopefully with. So there's one of his colleagues wants to do it anyway. So he's going to start. So anyway, so that's kind of moving on its own track. Nicole Lowen is she mentioned, we asked her this question, and the question was, if we were to evaluate the whole Big Island for the 5 volcanoes on the Big Island for geothermal, how much would it cost? And she basically said, just off the top of her head, about 22 million. So we use that number, yeah, just to do the analysis. So we're having that conversation now. At least that we have a number, yeah, and we also, SEH, it's related, but it doesn't seem like it's related. The culture center above the clouds. The culture center above the clouds really has to do with trying to move everybody to a place where you can get respect for Hawaiian culture, you can get economic development, and from a businessman's point of view, I think it's a good branding, because if we brand Hawaii with that, we'll be looking at. I mean, people all over the world will be looking at the value that could bring, especially if we can bring anti-poor guys and what they teach, because what they teach is amazing to me, because I ended up going to Halau Ohia, and I went to the first stage, and I went, holy smokes. When I first got involved, I had no idea. But the deeper I got into it, the more I realized it was science-based. And the more I asked questions, the more I realized it's science-based. And that's really what the whole world is looking for. What is sustainable? You can't have like a situation like what we have today, exponential growth on a finite planet. So Charlie Hall guys basically are saying, you know what, we should have an economic system based on science and ecology. So that was what I was looking at for about 15 years, until I came back and started to look into what anti-poor guys are doing. So when I look at the two, I realized they're both one and the same. So from that aspect, I just thought I'd throw that out. And as far as competitiveness of geothermal, let's assume we get the money and we can go explore. Once you do the exploration, what you've done is you've lowered the upfront cost to whoever the developer might be, and that will encourage more development and a lower price for the ratepayer. So, I forget where I was going now. Well, energy and return on investment. Oil, the way oil is produced right now, it's about 15-1. Back in the 1930s, the energy in 1 barrel of oil could get you 100. Today, the energy in 1 barrel gets you 15. And in shale and tar sands, it's even lower. So that's what I was getting at, trying to put geothermal in a place where when you compare apples to apples, the answer is obvious. Yeah, so that's what he's working on right now. Oh, and let's assume we do get geothermal, because it's a resource that you can go to scale in Hawaii. Solid 24/7, and you can go to scale. And what's the competition? The competition is hydrogen made on the mainland. But 90-something%, more than 95% of the stuff made on the mainland is natural gas. Natural gas is a finite resource. Sooner or later, it's going to go up in price. It just started climbing in price. So if we start, looking at geothermal and relying a fair bit, it'll give us protection in the long run. So that's what I'm talking about, is a longer run. Yeah. Anyway,
Thanks, Richard.
So I have my hand up.
Yes, Mitch.
So to answer Harvey's question as well, is I spent 5 years doing a environmental assessment for putting a hydrogen plant in at the geothermal plant, PGV. And, we came up with no significant impact, et cetera, et cetera. So the point I want to make is that we've done a lot of the homework, if not all the homework, for actually putting in a plant at the geothermal plant. We won over PGV because, they had to approve it to start with. And their shareholders had to approve it. Their shareholders being, at the time, I'm not sure what they are now, but that out of 3 shareholders, 2 of them were insurance companies. who of course were investing in the geothermal plant to get their return on investment. And of course, being insurance companies, the first thing they did is form a committee of good taste to evaluate this. And it took them like 3 or 4 years to conduct their internal evaluation until they came up with a thumbs up. And the day before we were going to sign the MOA with them was when that first eruption happened, in 2014 or whatever it was. And so we decided, HNEI decided not to go forward because of the risk. So the point I'm trying to make is that we've done a lot of the basic homework, which will help to reduce the time needed to be invested in looking at installing a hydrogen plant at the geothermal plant. So
Thanks,
we're
Mitch.
not walking into their cold turkey.
What we're
Dave?
talking about is diversifying geographically, yeah, because there's so much pushback because it's on the East Rift.
Right.
Dave, did you have a comment?
I apologize. I want to go back to something that Benson had said, and maybe an opportunity along with Mitch. So, Mitch, we got those 2 smaller buses, right, that eventually will come to the county. So Benson, put some thought on this, and maybe with Riley and Doug. What if we purpose that with the astronomy industry to use those as shuttles from Halipohaku up until the summit? And that would be financed through you folks, and as a demonstrative model in regards to clean energy as a start. And I don't know if that would work, but that could. And so essentially having private industry create the necessary revenue for this project to work, but also take into consideration the EIS impact as has been suggested to have only clean energy transportation. But start with shuttles, and then eventually that would be the opportunity to go to maybe EV heavier vehicles, trucks for the astronomy side. That might be, have more capacity in that regard. Anyway, just a thought, perhaps, about repurposing and trying to get quasi-public-private collaboration in that regard.
Yeah, that's a great point, David, because these buses have high torque, unlike a diesel bus, so they're pretty good at hill climbing. So that would be an excellent use of them. And don't forget, when they go up the hill, they're using up energy. When they come down, they're going to be producing energy through the braking system, regenerative braking. So yeah, it could be a great demonstration, and I totally agree with you on that one.
Okay, team, we're out of time. I did want to acknowledge Keith's note. Keith, you mentioned that there was a RFP.
It was led by Hawaiian Electric. They've got a 3300 line to North Kohala, and they have reliability issues at that part of the island, and they were sort of kind of hand-wringing about putting another substation in and a backup line to support that part of the island. And I was a little surprised because I did ask the question, are you planning to partner with Javi Wind? And they said, well, we did the high-level little chat, but we didn't go anywhere. So they haven't assembled all the pieces yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, as part of I attended that, and what I think what I got out of it is they still don't know what they want to do.
Yeah, that's true.
But it looks like they're prepared to issue the RFP though, so we'll see.
Yeah, this month actually, they're going to put out the meeting notes and what they want for the RFP. They may want to do it themselves, but then again, that's the outcome of the RFP. But they want to get going. They said they want to do it next year. So, okay. I'll briefly say I've heard back from Richard Horn, and he'll be available on the 25th of this month, and maybe we'll do a little doodle poll of what part of that Saturday works for the most people to go tour Hobby Wind. But he's making himself available.
Yeah, so thanks for facilitating that, and do send out an email with that poll. I'm available on the 25th. It'll just be good to find out, is it a morning event or an afternoon event? And given that some of us are going to be traveling from Hilo, maybe not too early on that day. Okay, so we're at it. Yes. Yes.
2 seconds. 1, 2. Listen, I just would encourage us not to beat up on HECO too badly for this microgrid project, North Kohala. As a matter of fact, this is one of the first things that they're doing where it actually looks like they're a distribution company as opposed to an electricity company. And so we're actually not unhappy that they're looking at this storage piece because we all know that North Kohala right now is pretty much separated if there's a break. And so.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Dave.
Noel, I wanted to mention just one thing. There's going to be an International Society of Biophysical Economic Conference starting on the 7th to the 10th. And I've got it in the chat here. So anybody want to see that? I highly recommend that. That's what I've been doing for more than 10 years.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. If you can put that in the chat or just send me the link. I think you've sent it. We can send that out to the group. That'll be great.
Okay.
There it is. Okay. So just to wrap up, we didn't touch on grants. There was a conversation Riley, Rachel, and I were in to talk about Build Back Better and also the Good Jobs Challenge. So there are grants out there that could apply to some of the things that we're talking about. Maybe that's for a different conversation. And then the last thing I want to highlight is that in preparation for National Drive Electric Week, I'll reach out to, some of us here so that we can come up with some messaging. There may be an opportunity actually to be on a panel to actually talk about this, and the audience will be the state. So I'll reach out to some of you for potential participation in that. This is a great conversation. Glad to see all the progress being made. Mitch, you were about to say something?
Yeah, don't forget we have our first hydrogen car on the Big Island, so that could be something to show off. We have a Mirai now.
Yeah,
Paul Ponthio
over at
and Stan Osserman. Yeah, up at Blue Planet.
Okay. Yeah, it's too bad that we're not able to do a parade because I was thinking we would do we'd have a rally of electric cars, including fuel cell, from Kona, from Waimea, and also from Hilo, going up to the Mauna Kea State Park. But because of COVID, we're going to have to postpone that to some other event.
Right.
It would defeat the purpose of having a drive-by, parking those and driving by in fossil fuel cars.
So anyway, thanks very much, everyone. Great conversation today. Lots of good sharing, and have a good weekend.
Okay. Well, thanks for inviting me. Well, see you guys later.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.